Heartwarming Triplets perform outside hospital. Incredible billionaire surgeon reveals a life-changing plan. Lily, Rose, and Daisy stood outside the bustling hospital, three sparks of joy amidst the humdrum of a busy day. As they sang their hearts out, the sweet melodies floated like cotton candy on a summer breeze, wrapping around patients and families, igniting smiles and wiping away tears. With every note, they transformed the air into a tapestry of hope, each sister's voice blending seamlessly into a harmonious embrace of sound. The crowd gathered, enchanted by their spirit, unaware of the struggles simmering beneath the surface. A proud veteran husband and father, lost to the weight of his disability, left their mother scrapping for every dime to keep their little home around them. Among the listeners was Dr. Samuel Hart, a renowned surgeon with a silver spoon in his mouth, but shadows in his heart. He watched the sisters with a gaze that was both admiring and yearning. He knew too well the burdens of sacrifice. Even as he healed, his own family bore debts of heartache that came with his success. Drawn to the warmth radiating from the triplets, he felt a pull deep within him, an urge to help them, but shackled by the ghosts of his past. The sisters, exhilarated by the attention, finished their set to thunderous applause. They exchanged excited glances, their hearts floating. And then, suddenly, Dr. Hart approached, taking a deep breath. "Can I help you girls? You have a gift, and I'd like to support your music." A murmur wove through the crowd. The sisters hesitated, eyes darting as whispers of skepticism and admiration met in the air. Something was happening, some unnamed tension as the people around them measured the energy of this connection, minds twirling with assumptions of privilege and class. Why does he want to help us? Lily thought, gratitude battling with uncertainty. Rose felt her stomach knot. Their community was fiercely protective, wary of outsiders. Before we continue, Dr. Hart interrupted the whispers, a soft authority in his voice. "I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The crowd shifted, and the duo of melodies hung heavily in the air. A vulnerability formed like fog, slowly wrapping around them. The triplets exchanged glances, hearts beating as if they were one. Dr. Hart's earnest plea flared into their minds, a chance to lift their family, or maybe, just maybe, reveal a man who wore his own scars like badges of honor. But the moment was fragile. The community's skepticism demanded proof, a measure of faith that might ignite a spark or incite a wildfire of outrage. Tension was thick, each chord strumming the strings of their hope and fears. As whispers swirled like autumn leaves, the sisters felt the pulse of their dreams teetering. Could they seize this moment and rally the community around their shared battles? Or would skepticism and doubt drown out the music and harmony that had always bridged their spirits? With their family's future hanging in the balance, would love and perseverance rule the day or falter under the weight of misunderstanding? The melody of their lives had begun a new song. The air was thick with anticipation. Lily, Rose, and Daisy exchanged meaningful glances, sensing the delicate balance between desperation and hope. It was scary. What if they said yes and it all crumbled? What if the goodwill from a stranger turned into something darker? Dr. Hart was still standing before them, eyes fixed on the trio, full of sincerity. "I believe in your talent," he said, voice steady, yet a tremor of uncertainty lay beneath it. "I want to help you get a music studio, create your own recordings, and reach a wider audience. You deserve that opportunity." The sisters stood frozen, the crowd's murmurs around them fading into the background. They could feel the warmth of the sun on their backs, but a chill ran through them. How could they trust him? Their mother had taught them never to accept pity disguised as charity. Yet, the sparkle of possibility illuminated their imaginations like fireworks on New Year's Eve. "Yeah, but why you?" Rose finally managed to find her voice, her brow scrunched in self-defense. "What's in it for you?" Dr. Hart took a step closer, the crowd holding its breath. I have my own struggles, just like you, he admitted, the mask of confidence slipping momentarily. I heal people every day, but I also see lives that deserve more than just survival. I want to share my success in a way that lifts others. And you girls, your voices inspire and heal. I want to be a part of that. Look around, Lily interjected, glancing around the gathering crowd. This is our community. They struggle too. Do you really understand what we need? A tightness formed in Dr. Hart's throat. He nodded slowly, his heart picking up speed. I do. I understand that your dad fought for this country, and your family is in need. I was there once. He paused, that ghost of sadness flickering in his eyes. I remember feeling lost and alone. I had to claw my way back, and I learned that music was my sanctuary. A strange hush fell over the crowd, with eyes wide and ears pricked. Emotions rippled like waves. Parents holding hands, teenagers with smartphones lowered, and grandmothers with tears pooled in the corners of their eyes began to feel the humanity they all shared. Perhaps, for a moment, they might all relate. The sisters felt the world narrow around them. It wasn't just a question of whether to accept Dr. Hart's offer, it was a question of community. Could they really let him into their lives, let help come from a stranger who understood pain? But could trust bloom amid doubt? Daisy's voice, soft and trembling like a leaf in autumn, broke through the tension. We want to know how you can truly help us. What is your plan? Dr. Hart's expression shifted, determination hardening his features. I have connections that can bring your music to a bigger stage. I can set up fundraisers, and I can reach out to sponsors. We can spread your music beyond this street corner. For a moment, time stood still. Hope and hesitation mingled, like colors bleeding together on a canvas. The sisters pondered the weight of Dr. Hart's words, the potential for their dreams to take flight. But was it worth the risk? Would they trade a piece of their integrity for a flicker of promise? Can we think about it? Lily asked finally, her heart pounding. Of course, Dr. Hart replied, his demeanor softening again. I'll be here whenever you're ready. The street buzzed with noise again as the audience clamored back to life, conversations firing off like sparks. The sisters stood together, their hands intertwined, hope blossoming amid uncertainty. But as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, they knew this moment was just the beginning. What if embracing this opportunity meant stepping into unknown challenges? What would happen when the voices of doubt returned? Would they stand strong together? The melody of their lives was far from over. Around the corner, temptations lurked. Would they find the courage to face the unseen trials ahead? Dr. Hart watched the sisters as they huddled together, their expressions a mix of contemplation and trepidation. He could feel the weight of their hesitation, and it made him uneasy. The buzz of the crowd faded again, leaving a silence that amplified their uncertain breaths. He wanted to reach out, to assure them that this was a good path, a path that could change everything, but as he stood there, words danced on the tip of his tongue, knowing that he needed to tread carefully. Trust was a fragile thing. He remembered how it felt to give everything to a dream and have it shatter like glass. Lily was the first to break away from the embrace of her sisters. What do you think, Rose? Daisy? She was staring into the distance, where the sun dipped lower, making the horizon blush. My heart says we should try, Rose replied, tapping her fingers against her thigh, the nervous energy hidden beneath her surface. But my head is screaming that it's too risky. What if it doesn't work out? Daisy, still clutching Lily's hand, nodded slowly. But what if this is the chance we've been waiting for? What if it's not just about us? Maybe we could inspire others, maybe we could be something more locally. Kids around the corner were still playing, laughter bubbling like a distant brook, reminding them of simpler times before financial woes and heavy responsibilities weighed them down. They had a passion that, somewhere along the way, had been buried beneath the pressing realities of life. What do we do if we trust him and it doesn't work? Rose shot back, her heart racing but voice steady. She didn't want to squash hope, but reality sat like a rock in her stomach. Lily considered their situation. What if we leave our skins out there on the line, and in the end, we find ourselves? Her voice was low, almost a whisper but laced with intensity. What if it leads us to our music? Each sister felt the pull of her words. The clock seemed to slow down as they faced the truth. They were not just deciding for themselves anymore but for a community that had little to cling to. From the fringes of the crowd, a thin woman approached them. It was Mrs. Becker, a local teacher, who had spent hours championing arts programs for kids in the neighborhood. "I heard everything," she said softly, her voice warm like the glow of the setting sun. "Whatever your decision, know the community stands behind you. Your voices matter." Dr. Hart swallowed hard, putting a hand on his heart. Those words ignited something deep within him. It wasn't just about music, it was about resilience and hope. Lily took a breath, shaking off the weight of doubt. "Maybe we just need to work together," she said, glancing at her sisters. "Let us say yes, but with conditions. We want our community to be a part of it, to support our efforts." A flicker kindled in Dr. Hart's eyes, the possibility blossoming into a full bloom of hope. "I think that's brilliant," he said, genuinely moved by their insight. "We can create something beautiful, something that goes beyond just the three of you." Their hearts raced in synchronization, each of them feeling the electrifying tingle of unity. The three sisters drew close once more, forming a tighter circle, sealing a pact. They would take this leap of faith together. But as the shadows lengthened around them, each girl felt a weight pressing on her heart. Just beyond this moment of triumph lay the unknown, a labyrinth filled with possibilities and challenges. Would they rise to the occasion, or would shadows loom larger and engulf their dreams? With a collective exhale, they spoke in unison. "We're in." The crowd erupted in cheers, a mixture of surprise and joy, igniting that flame of connection. But as the last light of day slipped away, uncertainty laced their resolve. Had they made the right choice? What would be waiting for them on the path they'd chosen? The first notes of their dream echoed with the promise of tomorrow, but as they stood there celebrating with the community around them, a sudden chill crept beneath their skin. What shadows might rise to meet them in this brave new world? In the days that followed their decision, a newfound energy infused the sisters' lives. They met daily in the small attic space of their childhood home, where the wooden beams creaked overhead, and sunlight filtered through the dust-speckled windows. Each note they strummed thrummed with the heartbeat of their dreams, but the weight of their choice still lingered. Lily took the lead, drawing melodies from her guitar that danced around the room. "Let us write something that speaks to what we're feeling," she urged, her eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and fear. Rose, though usually reserved, grabbed a notebook. "What if we write about hope? About taking risks?" Her voice held a tremor, but determination colored her words. Daisy listened intently, her fingers lightly brushing her violin. "And what if we talk about the community? Let their stories weave into ours." As she spoke, a fire ignited in her eyes. She imagined their music echoing through the neighborhood, carrying the tales of struggles and victories. Days blended into nights as their compositions evolved. Yet, doubts crept in uninvited. Each sister found moments to steal away alone, contemplating the gravity of their commitment. Rose often gazed out of her window, her heart racing with anxiety. "What if we fail?" she would whisper to herself at night, the shadows of her doubts wrapping around her tightly. One afternoon, while they were rehearsing, Lily paused suddenly, glancing out at the street below. "Do you think they really believe in us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daisy set down her violin, meeting Lily's gaze. "Mrs. Becker believed, didn't she? And the others? They see something in us that we might not yet see ourselves." The shrill sound of a bicycle bell broke the tension as a group of neighborhood kids rode past, giggling and singing, their innocent joy a reminder of the simple things. The sisters exchanged glances and chuckled, feeling the warmth of possibility flush through them again. That evening, laughter turned to a whispered promise. "We can't let fear hold us back," Rose declared, rallying her sisters. "For every uncertain moment, we'll push through together." Their first public performance was just around the corner. They agreed to play at the community center, a place where hope fluttered desperately, often on the edge of despair. As the date crept nearer, anticipation mingled with panic. What if nobody showed? What if the music faltered? On the night of the performance, the sisters stood backstage, hearts pounding. They could hear the soft murmur of a crowd gathering, feeling both nerve-wracking and exhilarating. With each passing moment, Lily squeezed her sister's hands, a silent mantra of solidarity weaving between them, and then, the moment came. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Hart's voice boomed through the modest venue, filled with a blend of familiar faces and curious strangers. Tonight, we witness the courage of three remarkable sisters. They embody the spirit of our community, reminding us that dreams are worth chasing. As they stepped into the spotlight, the warm light enveloped them, but anxiety seeped through their smiles. The crowd's chatter softened to whispers, and for a fleeting moment, it felt like staring into a vast sea of uncertainty, but there, at the edge of their hearts, a flicker ignited. They began to play. Notes spilled into the room, intertwining with the breaths of those who had come to listen. Amidst the music, the sisters found that the shadows no longer loomed quite so large. Here, in this moment, their fears began to dissipate, replaced with something beautiful. And yet, as the performance pressed on, a figure appeared at the back of the crowd, a silhouette watching intently. It wore an expression that sent chills down their spines, and in that instant, the sisters couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge was just beginning. As the sisters played on, each note echoed the unspoken fears and hopes they'd bottled up for so long. The audience swayed, their faces a tapestry of emotions, the excitement of anticipation mixed with the sweet release of shared dreams. But in the corner of the room, that figure loomed, a reminder that not all shadows could be dispelled by light. Daisy's gaze kept drifting back to the silhouette. The figure shifted slightly, and she caught a glimpse of flickering eyes, cool and calculating. A shiver racked her body. "Do you see that person?" she hissed to her sisters as they transitioned into their next song. "Focus, Daisy," Lily urged softly, but her own uncertainty was mirrored in her voice. The energy in the room ebbed and flowed around them, making it difficult to concentrate. Yet, the trio pressed on, the melodies binding them tighter than any fear. The audience responded enthusiastically, clapping along, and with each passing verse, the sisters unleashed more of their heart. Their music transformed the hall into a living, breathing entity, a space of belonging and hope. But that figure wouldn't leave her mind. Why were they simply standing there, watching? As they began their final song, Rose took a deep breath, her heart racing faster. "This one is for everyone who believed in us," she announced, her voice steady despite the rising panic. They poured everything they had into the music, letting the notes hang in the air like threads connecting them to each listener. When the last note faded, there was a moment of stunned silence. And then, uproarious applause filled the room, echoing off the walls. The sisters shared a glance sparkling with joy and disbelief, but the figure at the back remained still, clapping mechanically, a distinct contrast to the warmth surrounding the other faces. Daisy's stomach twisted. What was their intention? After the performance, as the sisters soaked in the rush of exhilaration, the figure approached. The crowd parted, revealing a tall woman impeccably dressed, casting an air of authority. Her presence was magnetic yet terrifying. "Hello," she said, her voice smooth but chilling. "I'm Dr. Verity Chase. I work at the hospital down the street." She paused, sizing them up with a scrutinizing gaze. "You three have something special. I want to offer you an opportunity." Lily exchanged cautious glances with Rose and Daisy. "What kind of opportunity?" Rose finally asked, feeling as if the ground beneath them shifted. This was more than they had dared to dream, but something about Dr. Chase gave her pause. With a slight smile, Dr. Chase continued, "I believe your music could lift spirits in our hospital. It's been scientifically proven that music aids healing. I'm looking for talented musicians to perform for our patients monthly." Excitement bubbled within Lily, but a wave of uncertainty washed over the others. But Daisy hesitated. "We're just getting started. We're not professionals." Yet, Dr. Chase interrupted, her voice firm with conviction. You have what it takes. Imagine the impact you could have on people facing their darkest hours. It's more than music, it's hope. As the sisters stood there, she saw the glimmer of possibility in their eyes, battling against their fears. They could sense the stakes rising. What if they accepted this offer? What if they failed to make a difference? Think about it, Dr. Chase said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I can help you reach more than you ever thought possible. But I need to know if you're all in. The air thickened around them, heavy with questions and uncertainty. As the sisters glanced at one another, conflicting emotions bubbled to the surface. Could they take this leap? But before they could reply, that nagging sense of unease settled back in. The woman's presence turned solid, and something deep within Rose stirred. Just give us a moment, she replied, gripping her sister's hands tightly. They turned away, trying to find clarity amidst the chaos, yet as they pondered, a sense of urgency sparked within Daisy. If they chose this path, what would it mean for their music and for their sisterhood? Little did they know, that one decision would alter everything they believed about themselves and the spirits they longed to uplift. What awaited them on the other side of this choice? The room buzzed with a mixture of excitement and confusion as the sisters huddled together, each wearing an expression that danced between trepidation and excitement. What did it mean to perform at a hospital? The thought sent a cascading rush of emotions through Daisy. She thought of the patient sick, scared, and fighting battles she could only imagine. Rose's voice broke through her reverie. What do you think? This could be our chance to really reach people. Her eyes shone with a light that matched her sister's ambition. But what if we mess up? Lily's voice wavered, betraying the all-too-familiar anxiety that crept in whenever they faced something big. What if we can't handle it? Daisy's heart sank, the weight of those words echoed around her. Or what if we succeed? She countered, her voice rising with newfound conviction. We could use our music to make a difference. Think of all the people who could use a bit of hope. Dr. Chase watched them, her expression inscrutable but her eyes sparkled with belief. In that moment, something clicked in Daisy. The shadows from earlier faded, replaced by a deeper understanding of their purpose. Maybe the figure's presence, cold, calculating, had pushed her to confront their fears. After a long silence, the sisters exchanged glances once again. Each of them held on tightly to the bond forged by years of music and shared dreams. That connection felt undeniable and fortified by the presence of the woman who now stood before them. Okay, Rose said slowly but firmly, the words laced with determination. We'll do it. We want to try. Daisy and Lily nodded in unison, feeling the rush of agreement wash over them. A sense of exhilaration coursed through the air, a thrilling recognition of the potential ahead. Fantastic. Dr. Chase's excitement was palpable, a sharp contrast to the worry that had just passed through them. I'll set up the details. Our first performance will be next Saturday. I can't wait to hear what you bring. After Dr. Chase departed, a buoyant atmosphere filled the emptiness left behind. They stood there for a moment, taking in their decision, the faint sounds from the audience still echoing in their minds like their last song, but after the initial glow of excitement, that ominous feeling Daisy had felt, it returned. Why did she approach us? She asked aloud, trying to unravel the threads of doubt. Maybe she sees something in us that we don't see in ourselves, Rose suggested. We've always dreamed of sharing our music, and now we have a chance. Or maybe she has her own agenda, Lily murmured, eyes darting to the crowd still mingling and chatting beyond the stage. The figure's cold stare lingered in her mind. As they began to pack up their instruments, Daisy's fingers fumbled on the strings of her guitar. What if we fail? What if our music doesn't resonate? What if it does? Rose interjected gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. The warmth reminded Daisy they were in it together, yet, just as they were finding solace in that bond, the door swung open, and in walked a man cloaked in a sharp suit. His presence radiated authority and confidence. Ladies, he said, striding forward with a charming smile. I couldn't help but overhear your thrilling discussion. I'm Dr. James Barrett, and I work alongside Dr. Chase. Your talent may just be what we need. Before he could finish, Lily interrupted, we're a bit overwhelmed. Can we have a moment? Of course, he replied with a nod. But you should know that every great opportunity comes with its own set of challenges. His words hung in the air like a silent storm cloud. The sisters looked at each other, hearts racing once more. What did he mean by that? Daisy felt a chill run down her spine. They had just crossed a threshold into the unknown, with so much at stake. Was their music ready to meet the gaze of the icy shadows that lingered just outside the warmth of their dreams? With uncertainty in the air, they could only wonder what awaited them on the path they had chosen, and how far would their journey take them. Daisy awoke the next morning with a swirl of emotions, the events of the previous day still fresh in her mind. The sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the room where the sisters had practiced countless hours. A sense of urgency had settled in her stomach, urging her to focus. The hospital performance loomed ahead, and nerves threatened to crush her spirit. As she dressed, the weight of doubt threatened to overshadow her resolve. What if Dr. James Barrett's warning was a sign of what was to come? She shook her head, trying to clear the heaviness from her thoughts. No. They had made a decision to step outside their comfort zone. They had chosen hope. Are you ready for this? Rose's voice broke through Daisy's haze as she peeked into the room, her enthusiasm brightening the atmosphere. She was adjusting her own outfit, a vibrant array of colors reminiscent of the music they loved so much. Almost, Daisy said, forcing a smile. It was a mask, but she hoped it would hold until they stepped onto that stage. If we can make just one person smile, Rose mused, as her hands danced across the notes of a sweet melody. It was a song they had nurtured for this very moment, a song filled with joy that contrasted sharply with their worries. Let us make them feel something, Lily chimed in, a determined light in her eye now. Something real. Her earlier apprehension seemed to dissolve, replaced by a fire that sparked from deep within. With a nod, the sisters gathered their instruments and headed to the car, steeling their hearts for the day ahead. They drove through familiar streets, passing the usual landmarks, the park where they used to play, the cafe where they shared their dreams. It all felt like a prelude to something monumental. But as the hospital loomed closer, an icy grip of anxiety twisted in Daisy's chest. Arriving at the hospital, they were greeted by Dr. Chase, her demeanor friendly but businesslike. I'm so glad you're here. The performance will be in the courtyard. The patients are really looking forward to it. Just remember, they're rooting for you. With her words, a flicker of excitement stirred within Daisy. She took a deep breath, acknowledging the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about them anymore. They were stepping into the lives of patients, those who might find a sliver of joy amid hardship. As they set up, nursing staff began to gather, bringing bits of enthusiasm and smiles. Patients peered through windows, a wave of mixed emotions brushing against Daisy like a cool breeze. She could see faces etched with concern, yet the glimmers of hope shone through. Each one seemed to ask the same question, what could today's performance bring? When the time came, the courtyard flooded with an array of hopeful faces, some worn and tired, others sparking with unveiled anticipation. Daisy felt the energy pulsing around them. They stepped forward, instruments ready, the music waiting to spill out and fill the air with something beautiful. What if we don't connect? She whispered to Rose just before they began, her voice barely audible above the chatter. But what if we do? Rose returned, her eyes locked on Daisy, reflecting the strength they always shared, and then, they began. The first notes twinkled in the open air, casting a spell that wove through the crowd. Eyes widened, smiles spread, and for a moment, the weight of their apprehension melted away. Music flowed like a river, carrying their emotions into the tapestry of human connection, but just as the initial chords brought comforting warmth, Daisy suddenly spotted a figure at the back of the crowd, a familiar presence with an unmistakable intensity. It was Dr. James Barrett, observing, as if waiting for something profound to unfold. Daisy's heart raced. Why was he here? Had he come to witness their success or to assess their failure? The melodies continued, but doubt crept in, whispering unsettling questions. Maybe this spectacle carried more than joy. It had an audience filled with hope and scrutiny. Would they be able to rise to the occasion? Could they truly make a difference? With uncertainty still shadowing their hearts, the sisters thought, was this performance the moment that could shift everything for them, or were they merely stepping into a spotlight meant to reveal their cracks? The music wrapped around them, a warm embrace that filled the courtyard, but Daisy struggled to hold on to that feeling. The sound drifted, softening the hard edges of the world for a moment. She glanced at Rose and Lily, their faces lit up with determination. That flicker of excitement rose again within her, competing with the anxiety that weighed down her heart. Daisy took a deep breath and played her first note, letting go of the doubt that clung so tightly. The sound resonated, flowing through her fingers and spilling into the air. She could see patients leaning in closer, their eyes sparkling with unexpected joy. Each note, each chord became a lifeline, connecting them all. In a moment of uncertainty transformed into bliss. Before they knew it, the song was cascading into a new rhythm, the energy shifting, and Daisy felt the audience respond raw and real. Laughter bubbled up as they played a light-hearted tune, and she caught glimpses of smiles, wide and bright, spreading across faces that just moments ago seemed burdened with sorrow, but in the back of her mind, she couldn't shake the sight of Dr. Barrett. He stood with arms crossed, seemingly unyielding, and his gaze was fixed on her. What could he possibly be thinking? Would he critique her performance later, dissecting every note? Daisy's heart thudded, drowning out the music for just a moment. As they transitioned into their second piece, she recalled his last words to her, the caution, the worry. But here was the truth, the music was more than notes strung together, this was a celebration, a chance for connection. And for those patients, it meant even more. Then, unexpectedly, she saw a woman in a wheelchair, tears rolling down her cheeks, her face a blend of longing and hope. Daisy's heart melted at the sight. The woman's reaction was proof that moment mattered. The sisters were there to bring light, to breathe a little life into a place where hope sometimes felt scarce. Lily glanced at Daisy, an unspoken understanding passing between them. They couldn't back down now. They would keep playing until every last soul felt the warmth of connection. And they did. The rhythm soared, drawing everyone in, pulling smiles out of the shadows. Daisy's anxiety began to dissipate, replaced by the magic of the music they had crafted together. She felt a swell of pride and an undeniable joy rising within her, but just as they approached the finale, her eyes drifted once more to Dr. Barrett. He stood tall, his expression unreadable, yet something shifted. Was it a hint of a smile? Did he nod ever so slightly? She felt a surge of hope rush through her. Maybe he was not just there to watch and judge, but also to witness their impact. As the final note hung in the air, a breathless hush fell over the courtyard. Then, like a wave crashing onto shore, the applause erupted. Cheers filled the air, a chorus of appreciation that surged through her veins. Daisy exchanged a glance with her sisters, their eyes gleaming. They had done it. The feeling was overwhelming. They had shared something deeply meaningful, perhaps they had changed lives, if only for a moment. Yet, as they basked in the warmth of applause, Daisy noticed something strange. Several patients were gathered around a television just off to the side, the screen filled with news coverage. The headline read, "Inspiring performance by local triplets captured on live stream." Daisy swallowed hard. What did this mean for them? Would their moment of vulnerability be exploited beyond the hospital's walls? As her thoughts spiraled, she caught Dr. Barrett's gaze again. This time, it felt far more intense, as if he too could see the danger that came with their newfound exposure. What lay beyond this happiness? Would the sisters be able to navigate the attention that might come next? As uncertainty loomed over them, Daisy's heart raced with both excitement and fear, wondering how their lives had already begun to shift in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. Daisy's pulse quickened. As the applause faded, a strange energy filled the courtyard. Excited whispers buzzed, patients huddled around the television, their faces alight with a mix of amazement and confusion. She turned to Rose and Lily, eyes wide. What if this isn't just a moment for us? What if it changes everything? Rose shook her head, a frown knitting her brows. We came here to make people feel better, not go viral. But we did make them feel better. Daisy protested, her heart racing. What if someone wants to take this and turn it into something more? Just then, Dr. Barrett stepped toward them, breaking their circle. His feet moved closer, and Daisy felt a wave of trepidation wash over her. But instead of the scolding she expected, he looked impressed. That performance you three really brought life into this courtyard. Daisy's heart fluttered at his words. Did he mean it? His normally stern face softened for a moment, and she caught a glimpse of warmth there. Thank you, Dr. Barrett. Lily stepped forward, pride shining through her usual reserve. But what's next for us? We didn't plan for all this attention. It sounds like you might be the talk of the hospital, he said, a hint of a smile playing at his lips. And honestly, you deserve every bit of it. Daisy noticed a group of nurses nearby, eyes glued to the screen, phones in hand, capturing every moment. The link between them and a world outside these walls was suddenly palpable. She released a shaky breath, trying to ground herself in the moment. The warmth they had spread would be overshadowed by what came next. As they stepped away from the centerpiece of excitement, Daisy turned her attention back to the wheelchair-bound woman, now glowing with renewed hope. She caught the woman's eye and smiled, feeling an unshakable bond. This was what mattered. But Dr. Barrett's voice broke through, heavy with contemplation. You three need to be prepared. If the world is watching, it'll bring up questions. Your purpose here might evolve. Your music, it could be more than just a performance. It could inspire, it could heal. Or it could put pressure on us, Rose said softly, her voice laced with concern. What if we can't keep it up? The thought hung over them, as heavy as storm clouds. Daisy rolled the idea over in her mind. There was risk, yes, but there was opportunity too. Did they have the strength to meet the challenge? The spontaneity of their music had worked wonders today. Could it do more? Suddenly, the television screen flickered with a new headline. A close-up of their performance filled the screen, and Daisy caught snippets of chatter about contacting them for interviews. Interest surged. A journalist appeared, eyes gleaming with intrigue, ready to capture the sisters' story. An emotional knot formed in Daisy's throat. What if we can't live up to who they think we are? She whispered to her sisters, vulnerability creeping into her voice. But what if we can? Lily countered gently, her resolve firm but hopeful. What if this is our moment to share our gift? As the crowd's murmurs swelled, Daisy knew they stood on the precipice of change. The thought of being thrust into the spotlight terrified her, but the possibility of creating hope filled her heart with warmth. How could they bridge the gap between expectation and reality? The air felt electric, charged with both fear and excitement. Daisy took a deep breath, looking at her sisters. The decision ahead lay heavy yet intertwined with hope. They had made a difference today, now they just had to figure out how to keep doing it. But as her eyes searched around the courtyard, she found Dr. Barrett once more, lost in thought, and an idea formed. A life-changing opportunity might just spring from their next move. Are we really ready for this? Daisy finally asked, and with that question hanging in the air like a note waiting to resolve, she felt the shift occurring, the transformation that could lead to something extraordinary. What would happen next? The journey ahead loomed, uncertain but promising. The sun was bright on the day of their first hospital performance, but despite the warmth, Daisy felt a slight chill. It settled around her shoulders like a heavy shawl, an uninvited guest that whispered fears of inadequacy and doubt. But here they were, standing together, Lily, Rose, and Daisy, hand in hand. They had come so far, driven by their shared dream and the mission to bring joy through their music. As they set up their instruments in the hospital courtyard, the buzz of anticipation was palpable. Patients leaned from windows, whispers of excitement buoyed the atmosphere, and nurses moved in and out, wearing encouraging smiles. Each soul there seemed to feel the weight of their shared stories and struggles, waiting for a glimmer of hope. Dr. Chase stood by, watching the sisters with a kind smile. "They're excited to hear you," she said, sparking a thread of confidence that both lifted Daisy's spirits and tightened the knot in her stomach. "Just remember, it's not about perfection, it's about connection. Share your hearts." With that, they took a collective breath and stepped into the space, the sunlight casting a warm glow, revealing their fears and aspirations. The crowd went quiet, faces turned expectantly toward them. Daisy could feel the energy swirling, taut and ready. Lily took the lead, fingers dancing on the guitar strings, creating a soft melody that filled the courtyard with a comforting embrace. As the sweet sound carried over the murmurs of patients and visitors, Daisy glanced at Rose, the rhythmic pulse of the moment echoing in their hearts. Together, they were creating something extraordinary. With each song, the worries began to melt away. Their voices intertwined, harmonizing flawlessly, creating a symphony that spoke directly to every soul present. Laughter erupted in the air as they transitioned into a light-hearted tune, and the warmth of the crowd radiated back toward them. Daisy's heart swelled as she saw a once sad face brighten, an older woman in a wheelchair wiping joyful tears away. Their music was breaking through barriers. It was everything they had hoped for and more. And then there was Dr. Barrett, standing back, arms crossed, his gaze penetrating yet thoughtful. Daisy couldn't shake the feeling that his presence was a reminder of the pressure that success would bring. But somewhere deep down, she also sensed an approval, a glimmer of belief that perhaps they were on the right path. As they played their final song, a hush fell over the courtyard. The sisters poured everything they had into it. Every ounce of hope, fear, and determination flowed from them like a river. When they finished, a moment of silence lingered, thick with anticipation. Then it erupted. Applause, cheers, and whistles filled the air. The crowd's joy swelled, wrapping around them like a warm hug. Daisy's breath caught in her throat. They had done this. The realization washed over her like sunlight breaking through clouds. This was their gift, one that belonged not just to them, but to everyone who had listened, who had needed this moment of light. But just as they were basking in the joy of their achievement, a ripple of commotion broke in the back of the crowd. Patients began gathering close, eyes glued to a nearby television screen broadcasting the event. That familiar chill zipped down Daisy's spine. What would this newfound attention mean for them? Then Dr. Barrett approached, his expression serious yet understanding. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Take a moment. This is who you are now. You've touched lives. The world is watching, but that doesn't change your heart. This is your chance to lift others." Part of Daisy wanted to resist, to retreat back into the comfort of obscurity. But then she glanced around, the faces glowing with hope, laughter blooming in unexpected places. They had the chance to inspire, to encourage healing through their art. Could they do that? Did they have what it took to delve deeper, to reveal their vulnerabilities and bring hope to those who needed it most? As she looked at her sisters, their eyes shimmering with resolve, a realization clicked into place: they were more than just voices layered in melody. They were a beacon in the dark, a quintessential stitch in the fabric of their community. "All right," Daisy said, her voice steadying with newfound strength. "Let us embrace it together. Whatever comes next, we do it as one." With unified determination, they nodded, feeling a surge of energy ignite between them. They would harness this moment and carry it forward. Daisy held on to the joy of what they had created and used it to fuel the uncertain but thrilling road ahead. Taking a step back into the crowd, they felt the connection tighten. Laughter and applause echoed around them, and with every inch they moved forward, they felt lighter, embraced by the stories they were now a part of. As they entered this new chapter with open hearts, their journey had just begun. Together, they declared their mission: to share their music, to heal, to inspire, and most importantly, to bring joy to those who needed it most. The future glimmered with hope, and a cherished friendship shimmered unbreakable and solid. So now a new dawn awaited, one they would meet together, hand in hand. The spotlight may shine bright, but it would never outshine the resolve of their bond. The melody of their lives began its next song, a symphony of love, hope, and dreams, ready for the world to hear it beneath the rising sun. Subscribe immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others feel this magic too. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support now. Don't wait not even one more second to share.